It's nice to finally meet you, man.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for having me on. This is cool.
It's a little bit different than the YouTube, I guess, with the live and the aspect of chat, being able to read.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love Twitch though. I'm on. I have a Twitch channel too. Twitch.tv/MrGrowit, and then twice a week we're on From the Stash podcast. Actually, I think we
Okay.
rated you
Yep.
not too long ago.
Yeah, and it confused me because like they came in, and I'm like, and I thought it was you, and they're like, no, 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 he comes on our podcast, and it's like I'm like, okay, so he's doing multiple because I know you have your own podcast, and then you have that one,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I think there's another one too. I'm all out of the whole YouTube loop. I think Penguin has a podcast as well, or not Penguin,
Pigeons,
Pigeons. Sorry, Pigeons. That's my
pigeons.
fault.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep, yep.
he's got one as well. That's
Yeah,
uh, that's
yeah. So we're
awesome.
all doing our thing.
Yeah. So how you liking the Twitch though?
It's awesome, man. This community is great. I mean, I'm seeing some familiar faces in your chat here.
Oh yeah.
Just so many people, showing love and very hardcore
Yeah.
group of people that are on Twitch. And I love how it's relaxed, right? So like YouTube's a whole different battlefield with like censorship and
Yeah.
if you smoke on there, you show a cannabis
Really
plant, they're age restricting it, right? So like they're
interesting.
not sending your video out anywhere else because of that.
I
But
noticed
Twitch, I
that.
mean, they're like
Okay.
wide open. You can sit here and smoke. You can sesh. You can talk about weed
Yeah.
freely. You can talk about genetics.
It,
Genetics is one thing you should shy away from on YouTube.
oh,
So
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
The sharing, I guess, on here because when I started, there wasn't really a big cannabis community really on Twitch yet. There was a small one. There was kind of everyone had like some people on Instagram were coming over. They were slowly making their like gaming, and they slowly started doing like some of their growing stuff on here. But when I first started, yeah, it was very limited, and we did was watch YouTube videos, and then slowly we started seeing more content creators come over to Twitch, which was nice because then you got to see like a lot of people they would be recording like a YouTube video and then doing it live, so you kind of got the hand in hand, but there was never the interaction. And then now you kind of got it where there's people who are growing, being interactive, the whole learning, and there's so many channels doing it now, and it's really cool to see. So welcome to
yeah.
the platform.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I remember following you like a long time ago. Like it's got to be well over a year
Oh
ago, if
yeah,
not 2 years. And I remember you had like a you always just obviously show your grow
yeah.
time lapse or whatever, just leave it on, and you had like a DWC grow going on. I don't know how long ago that was, or if he's still running
I've
DWC, but
got I've got to grow that. So my veg has like a full ebb and flow system, which I would have on camera sometimes. My flower has always been soil, but I do try and go and test different things around. That's really the whole thing of TBL is because of where I am in Canada and how the law is here. We're fortunate enough to be able to share knowledge, share genetics, share flower, right? And you're allowed to. And with that comes like a badass community. And yeah, it's pretty cool that we are able to do that. And with the Twitch stream, I take things like people will be like, "Oh, give that a try. Try that cloning method. Oh, try that growing method, DWC or soil or no till or whatever." And then I'm like, "All right, well, because we're allowed to have the count that we have, let's do it. Let's have some fun, right?" And it's cool
yeah, I
to be able
remember
to
you
show it.
being like, I feel like you were the one of the first ones that kind of just leave your grow on all time, all night. You know what I mean? And like, there's people in the chat all the time. 24/7. You've got people in the chat, and I like
That's
kind of
sick.
like blew my mind a little bit. Like when I first, I was like, wait a minute, these guys are just staring at the plants being grown. But like, I get it. There's a community, there's people talking, chatting.
Well, now
It's
you've
cool,
joined the
man. It's
Discord
cool.
too, and with the Discord is what I've really focused on, and I'll give you my little insider scoop here for you. But what I've really focused on for the last 3 years is combining platforms. So making sure that I'm on Twitch. That's my essentially where I market myself out, where I try to gather people, and then I immediately say, "Yo, join our Discord," because Discord is my platform. That's where we go on. So every single week throughout the Discord, I think we're getting close to, I think it's like 20,000 minutes in just video of just people in the chat, in the Discord voices and stuff, either playing video games, showing off their own gardening, showing off their hashing or whatever, right? and people are just doing their own little live streams in the TBL Discord. So it's kind of created its own little, like, I don't know, like streaming platform through Discord / like family community / like community education platform that we're all on the same page, growing all together. Like, some of us have been growing for 3 years together, and from our first growth to now, we're all on the same page, and we're all like, we all know, like, because the way we learn is we learn like every method, right, going through, and with your videos too, it's helped us a lot, and that's kind of like exactly what the whole TBL is about.
That's awesome. Yeah, Discord, I mean, is a whole nother community. It's great. Thanks for the invite, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm not
welcome.
too much into Discord, but I'll pop on there every now and then for sure.
It can be pretty cool. But it can be another form of Reddit, but even closer, which is the negative to it, right? It can definitely cause some issues, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. All right.
Absolutely.
So I kind of screwed this up here. Let me. I got to minimize this for a quick sec. Move you over here for a quick sec, because I saved all my questions into a Discord chat, not onto a notepad. So I have to just get my WordPad up and do a little swappy swap here. There we go. And here we go. Perfect. Look at that. Easy peasy. And that's what's nice about being live, is that everything you do, everyone sees. So there's no production, and it's just fun. Always fun.
Right.
So, I don't know, like 2 weeks ago, I guess, I asked you if you wanted to come on TBL, and I asked if you wanted to talk about, like, controversial topics. And we all know what a lot of these controversial topics, whenever we say that, it is. A lot of people know exactly what they are. And as a community, around the whole world, every country seems to have their own method or their own science or their own experience doing certain things, right? And so I've kind of got a couple questions here. And then I've asked the chat if they have any questions, if they just want to post it, and I'll just copy and throw it in here. Whenever you need to go, that's fine. Doesn't matter to me. The way I was visioning this would be, I'll ask you a question, and it could be a yes or no. It can be more quick, right? You've got videos that just, on most of these, you've got videos that go into depth on these things. So it's more or less like your opinion, blah, 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 right? And a lot of people here are your fans, and I think this is going to be pretty cool. And I know there's going to be a lot of information flying here. And I think our heads are kind of in the same space on a lot of things, but it's cool for a community to be able to see it. So,
for sure, some of my answers might be a little long-winded, so I apologize if you want quick answers, and
That's
all of a sudden
fine.
I just blast you out with a 3 to 5 minute answer.
That's fine. I did send you some of the questions that I had, just because I like knowing what I'm into before, anyways. I'm not gonna Beard Gang products. I don't use any products. Do you use any products?
No.
See,
just wash it and that's it.
Exactly, all natural. And no, we're not brothers, okay? Okay, just because we grow cannabis and make content online, we're not brothers, all right? Okay. Do you remember the terminology gram a watt?
Gram per watt, yeah.
What do you think about that?
Oh, Jesus. Is this... did you see me like wearing that shirt that says gram per watt with the X through it? Because I actually have a shirt that says gram per watt with a huge X through it. So I have an opinion on it.
Okay.
So, gram per watt, it's a good measurement for individuals measuring their own performance, right? As long as you've got all your variables straight, you can go in and measure your own gram per watt, and then next grow, measure the gram per watt and see what the difference is and judge it against your own performance for sure. When I see these companies start advertising gram per watt, this light, if you buy this light, it's going to give you this gram per watt. That is something that really irks me, because we all know that it's not just the light that produces yield, right? Nutrition, environment, all that stuff is going to impact yield. So for these companies to market their light specifically advertising a gram per watt and trying to hype up their light for a gram per watt, I think is kind of crazy there. You see less company, there was like a spurge of companies doing it for a while, and then a bunch of companies kind of like backed off of it because they realized,
Yeah, it's not working. It was like, it started with, they would put the advertised wattage, and then it changed to gram per watt, and then
Yeah.
it slowly changed to par values, your ppfd values. Oh, it's got over 1500, right? And then
Now it's efficiency, micromoles per joule, right?
yeah, exactly, efficiency. All right. Awesome. I'm trying to go out of. Do you believe autoflowers are the future?
I mean, I kind of stand by Jeff Lowenfels. He, I don't know if you know him. He wrote Teaming with Microbes.
Okay. Yep.
Very popular book. He wrote a book on autoflowers as well, and I heard him on some podcasts. And he thinks autoflowers are the future. And the reason why is specifically because you don't need to change their light cycle in order for them to flower. So he envisions like in the future going to nurseries once it's legal across the board, right? People going to nurseries. The nurseries don't really have to worry about a light cycle, right? So they'll be able to keep it in the nurseries. People will be able to pick it up off the nurseries, go home, and then keep it on one light cycle, and they'll be good to go. So I kind of agree with them on that one.
Yeah.
I do think that it's, in my opinion, of course, it's better for beginners to start with autoflowers, in my opinion, just because it's on a time based, right?
Yeah.
Autoflowers. I've had autos where I stunted them within the first 20 days, and all of a sudden I have a crappy yield because it started flowering without, I wasn't able to control when it starts to flower.
Yeah.
It starts to flower, plant stays small, and I have barely anything to show for it.
Yep.
I feel like a lot of new growers fall into that trap where they think autoflower is going to be easier because they don't have to adjust that light cycle. But that's really just one kind of benefit of autoflowers. There's a whole bunch of benefits. I mean, we could talk forever on pros and cons of autoflowers, but long story short, I mean, I still do grow autoflowers.
More autos than photos?
No, I grow more photos. I like the control.
Yeah,
I do.
Okay.
And I like the less energy consumption, right, during flowering. 8 weeks with less energy consumption versus a plant you got to keep on for 18 hours. Light you have to keep on for 18 hours a day or more.
You want to say type R in chat for a second?
What?
Just say type R. Type R in chat.
Type R. Type R. Like that?
Yeah. So here, an autoflower, anytime we talk about autoflowers, we say type R in chat. We have a sticker that's type R.
Really?
It's just a funny thing we do here. So everyone spams R when we talk about autoflowers. That's why I always say anytime we talk about autoflowers or someone posts an autoflower, the first thing I say is type R in chat, and then we talk about it. That's what we do here. That's why it'll be sometimes the interview is gonna pop up some weird things like that. Just throwing that out there. Okay, here's another long topic that will be considered short. Genetic drifting. Do you believe that is still relevant, or do you believe that is a myth?
Man, it was a little bit beyond my knowledge there. I dig too deep into it. Epigenetic drift and kind of. You're talking about just to clarify. You're talking about
holding a mother multiple and cloning it and then recloning it and recloning it.
It's hard to see. I totally believe that viruses and viroids exist, right?
Yep.
So over time, they could potentially get a virus or a viroid, and then that could certainly impact them forever,
Yep.
So maybe some people confusing the drift with just having a virus or a viroid.
Exactly what that's exactly what I believe. That's why I asked. It's that I believe a lot of it's environment drifting or exactly a virus, like what's going on in the States right now, and I think it's coming up here to Canada now, where it's got like 75% of the nurseries have this. I don't know what it is. I know the chat will say it. Some Latin some virus in all of their seeds and their clones, and it can travel really, really quick. I don't know what the actual name is. I know the chat will probably post it here. But yeah, that's exactly what I believe. Is environment drifting, or the hops virus. Yeah, not tobacco, not the tobacco.
Hop latent.
The hop latent virus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that would obviously cause drifting as well. But no.
Right. Yeah.
All right. When cloning, do you keep your dome on or do you use open air? Like, are you using a dome or do you have open air?
I live dome. I
Okay.
mean, I live in a very dry climate. I live in the desert, Las Vegas. It's very, very dry here. I mean, I'm looking at the 25% right now, so it's pretty dry here. Uh, what do you got? No, right
32 right now.
there.
I've got humidifiers. I literally bought a humidifier for my house upstairs because my house floor is cracking. My drywall's cracking because it's so low, and it actually
Oh
starts to cause
man.
your floor and your studs in the house to start to crack and warp. So I had to start adding some humidity to my house because I'm like, God, maybe my
Uh,
grow's sucking it out or something.
what was the question?
Sorry, it was the dome on or keeping it in the
Dome. Yeah,
dome.
yeah.
Yeah, so you said dome.
So I like to keep it on, right? So I usually grow from seed, but I have cloned
Yeah,
in the past for sure.
yeah, totally.
What I usually do is I'll keep it on the dome, and then I'll keep the slots closed,
Yeah,
for 24 hours. Then I'll start to slowly crack it every 24 hours until I'm up to day 10,
yeah.
and then usually around day 10 is where I'm taking off the dome at that point. So.
Yeah, similar. When you hear the term flushing, what's the first thing you think?
Oh, geez. I think of how it's so many different definitions of it, right? So some people think flushing is considered running a large amount of water through the grow pot. Oftentimes, people flush either from over fertilizing, throughout the grow. If they over fertilize, they need to flush out the medium salts, whatever. Or some people do a flush towards the end of the grow. 1 to 2 weeks before harvest. Typically, you'll hear people flushing. Again, they'll kind of flush out the salts, kind of get that fade going on their plants. But a lot of people consider flushing as in just stopping nutrients, like the last 2 weeks of the grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not actually running water through, but just
Stopping it.
stop feeding nutrients and then just water for the last week or two.
Yeah.
So there's like definitions that are all mixed up, and whenever there's people talking about it, they don't know. They assume it's one way when they're actually probably talking about it the other way, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of misconceptions on that one.
Like pulling the
Um,
nutrients back out.
yeah. So I think that's been debunked,
Yeah,
right? So
that's been
they've
debunked.
done tissue testing on it for flushed versus non-flushed buds, and they didn't find any difference between the nutrient content
Yeah.
within the plant.
But
So
on
that's
on
kind of been
COAs as
debunked.
well, they don't find any nutrients left over. They don't find anything.
Mm, yeah, and I guess I mean the study was done by Arc Screen Technologies. I don't know if you're familiar with that one
Yeah,
or not,
we
but
watched your. You had a video on that, I think.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I proved it as beneficial because you don't have to use nutrients, right? Save money. So that's always proved
Well, see,
beneficial.
the way I grow is I don't know if you've heard of the nutrients Gaia Green. It's very popular
Yeah.
here in
Oh yeah. Oh,
Canada.
for sure.
That's what I've been using for a while now. And with Gaia, you feed week 6 flower, and then you don't feed the last 3 weeks, unless you're growing like maybe like a 12-week plant, like a 13-week plant, which I don't grow. Right, I grow 8 to 10 week plants. So for the last 3 weeks of flower, 3 to 4 weeks, it's just pure water. That's what I'm always, or molasses, I should say, because we do molasses Monday, or what we call molassium Monday here now, because I was too stoned one time and I said the wrong word, mixing potassium and molasses together. So it's called molassium Monday now, and I feed molasses every Monday with some labs or any other type of bacteria that I've got on hand, because I'm big on making sure that my soil health is healthier than my plant's health, to be honest, because if my soil health is healthy, then my plant's health is going to be healthy. That's the way I look at it. And with Gaia, you always have that 1 week waiting, so I just kind of got used to the way I grew. Okay.
Yeah, Guy's a great lineup. I wish they
Yeah.
had it. I think they just actually started getting it here in the States, like
Only a couple
within
of
the
them.
past 6 months or something.
Yeah, they've got a couple of them out there, and the two that you need, the bloom and the all-purpose, are not the two that are available. They have like some of the, I think, like
Rock
gypsum,
phosphate.
the exactly,
Yeah,
exactly those ones. And I think it's all to do with probably licensing. There might be other companies that are licensed to be able to sell certain amounts or whatever, or something like that. Here's another question you might have an input on, or you might not. Here, it's a little controversial between a couple people, but I wanted to ask you anyways. UVC and using UVC for sterilizing.
Uh, geez, another one I don't really know too much about and dig too deep into it. I mean, I know some people do it like hydroponics, for example. They'll put it towards their roots or something, and in order to sterilize it. But I've never used it, so I don't really have much of an opinion on that. I know UVB. There's
Hmm.
some controversy behind that. I don't know if
Sure.
that was one of your questions or not,
No,
but
I didn't have any UVBs, and I was thinking about just using UV there.
yeah,
But the reason why I asked UVC is because with the pandemic and everything happening, UVC has become very, very popular here in Canada. You go to Home Depot, you can buy UVC phone cases. You can buy, like, they're getting them installed in every your HVAC systems. They're getting them installed everywhere. Like, it's just something they're pushing. So it's something that I like a year ago went out and bought a lamp, and I've been using it in my flower room. After every grow, I turn it on for half an hour and I move it around. And yeah, and that's with bleach I use to sterilize. But some people say it doesn't work. Some people say it does. I know I've gone to a couple different labs here, and they use big hospital grade UVC. And then I've also heard of others that use just normal bleach. But this kind of moves to my other question then. If you're not, what do you use for cleaning between flower grows?
just a bleach cleaning product for
Yeah.
the most part. I clean up between grows because I don't do perpetual. So
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
I'll harvest and then
Same.
I'll clean the grow tent, clean my room. Um, I've been using just a bleach cleaning product. I know some people use hydrogen peroxide diluted.
That's what I use.
That helps. Yeah,
Yeah.
that helps a ton. But just spraying down the sides of your grow tent, wiping them down. For example, I do all the equipment, the lighting, just wiping everything down. I even like to do it between veg and flower. So once I do that transition, if I can take my plants out of the tent, if they're not like secured in with like a net or anything like that, I'll take them out of the tent, do another cleaning. So that way flowering, I know for the next 8 weeks, at least I'm coming into a clean slate type thing, you know?
Yeah.
So that's
Awesome.
kind of the way I personally go about it.
Do you use any IPM sprays?
Uh, I used to, but I've been shying away from it with indoors. To be honest with you, I normally just remove most of my clothing, so I don't get any like bugs or like even hair because I
Yeah.
have 3 cats here.
Oh, okay.
So hair is one of those things where I'm trying to like not get into the grow
Yeah,
room.
yeah.
So I'll wear like clothing, particularly that like the hair doesn't stick to it very well,
Okay.
and then I'll go into the grow room that way.
Sure.
But I just don't. I do. I guess you can call the yellow sticky traps IPM, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that's one thing that I do is the yellow sticky traps. But I don't do any sprays. I don't do. I mean, I used to do the
Hell
essential
yeah,
oil
naked
spray.
He's not talking about getting naked and going to the garden, guys. Come on.
Almost. I think there's a YouTube channel called Naked Gardening, I believe. So it's hilarious.
Funny.
But yeah, it's for me, it's important to. I think with growing indoors, it's a little bit easier to control or prevent pests from coming in if
Totally.
you do small things such as like remove clothing or don't walk directly from outside inside and things like that.
Totally.
And just the yellow stickies. That's all I really do. But I used to do the spray with an essential oil.
You Lost Coast
So I used to do that. I think it was like 32 ounces of water,
okay.
A teaspoon of Dr. Barner's soap for surfactant, and then I forget how many drops of essential oil it is, but rosemary or peppermint. Exactly. I actually do have a video of that on my main YouTube channel, which kind of goes into more detail.
That's what I use, actually. There's a product called Method 1 here, and it's the same thing. It's got a little bit of isopropyl alcohol in it as well, which was one of my other questions. Do you prefer using a sterilizer cleaner for IPM or using a bacteria? Some people would use labs for their IPM, and then you wouldn't use hydrogen peroxide when you're using your labs because it'd just be defeating the purpose, right? Especially if Method 1 with isopropyl alcohol, if I'm spraying labs and then using an essential oil sanitizing IPM, it's just defeating the purpose. So the question was, would you rather a bacteria spray that would be promoting positive bacteria, or would you rather use an essential oil spray that more or less sanitizes where you would continuously spray it?
That's a good question. I think you could go either way. I think if you have pests, some of those bacteria sprays help, right?
Yep.
But if you're like prevention, you're trying to deter pests, it might be good to use one of those, essential oil sprays because those are really deterring, right?
Yeah.
It's deterring the pests. So I feel like you go either route on that one.
Yeah, totally. What's your favorite strain?
Oh man, So many. I feel like it changes over time, right? It's
Same.
like
Like, everyone says that,
this.
what's your favorite? And I was like, well, what I got only what I grow right now. Like, I don't go out and really buy anything, so my favorite strain is what I'm growing.
I had a really good pheno of Sage and Sour by TH Seeds
Okay.
several years back, and it was so amazing. And I planted them again, and I just didn't get that same pheno. It didn't come half a result, so it was kind of disappointing there. But
Yeah.
I really love the effects off of Sage and Sour. I like the effects off of Queen Anne's Revenge by Subcool the Dank. Rest in
Okay.
peace.
Yeah. Rest in
He
peace.
Oh my God, it was an amazing, very easy feeder first, as far as growing. Trichomes loaded all the way down. Density was great. And then towards the end of flowering, when you get that fade happening, it faded to a purple, right? So the
Oh,
whole
that's the
plant started
perfect.
from the top, and then like every few hours, every day or so, just fade from top bottom,
That's
and it was just
perfect.
absolutely beautiful. It was one of those plants that I wish I kept a cut, but no.
Yeah. See, now I'm at the point now. It's like that's all I've been doing is I got, and that's another thing that's cool about TBLs because here in Canada we're legally allowed to share. We're able to share perfect genetics, the perfect cuts of things, right? Like the phenos that is like the perfect squisher, the perfect bubble hasher, right? So we've got all these like our own little library, we call it. So I've been just growing a lot of these. Like I've got a lot of ethos cuts, and I've got um, uh, now I'm growing the triangle mince, which we've got a triangle mince, which we thought was the JBZ triangle mince, which is what they call the wedding cake, but it's we it might not be because we got the real one and it looks different. So we're kind of like, it might be a pheno of the triangle mints, but it might not be the actual JBZ. But do you have a strain for this year that's under your radar to grow?
Um, let's see. I mean, I just grew a Purple Frost Giant by Welcome to the Grow Tent.
Mm-hmm.
That came out really good. I had a pheno that turned purple and very dense. I grew one with organic inputs and then one with synthetic inputs.
Mm-hmm.
Those turned out pretty similar,
Yep.
They break down to the same molecules. So I know there was a lot of debate there. I
That's
wasn't
my
sure if that
next
was on your
question
list.
is
It was.
organics versus synthetics. So keep going.
um, let's see. Frozen Fuel is one that I grew recently that I was excited on. I've got some Prism Labs. So Prism Labs is the breeder. There is Chronic 420 Inc. He was formerly of North Genetics, so real
Okay.
big company there. He went off and did his own thing, and then he
Yep.
has his own line through Prism Labs,
Prism. Okay.
LABZ. And everything I've grown out so far has been incredible. I had
Yeah.
an ISO 8 that I grew out. I had a Curb Stomper that I grew out. Both of them looked amazing. And I think I have like 8 of his cultivars.
Mm-hmm.
And so I need to plant some more. I've been getting a lot of males, so I need to replant them and
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah,
get
yeah.
some females there.
So you're
That's kind of
mainly
what I'm
seeds.
excited
Then.
for.
You're mainly a seed guy.
Yep, mainly seeds.
How do you start your seeds usually?
Uh, Oftentimes I just, I'll drop in a cup of water for like 24 hours, then put them in the medium after that. I've planted directly into the medium before. Obviously done the paper towel method before. I believe there's pros and cons to both ways,
Yep.
So it really depends on your situation, I feel like.
Yep. Have you heard of Sacred Cut before? The genetics?
No.
No. So up here in Canada, just he's quality as well. He's got some cool strains and stuff too. They all very purple and seems like you like the purple strains.
That's pretty.
You're
You
into
got good
100%.
pictures off of it.
100%.
I do want to say thank you to Stoneface Killer. He gifted me a sub, so thank you. That's awesome. I really appreciate that.
AJ, my homie, look at you. I appreciate that, AJ. Okay, here's a very, very tough question, okay? This one's going to be very tough. Would you rather deep fried French fries or air fried French fries?
Shit, I don't even know the difference. They'd probably taste the same, wouldn't they? Deep fried are good. I feel like, I don't know, probably get more flavor with the deep fried, I would think.
Okay.
What about you? How about you?
I'm an air fryer. I'm all
Air
about
fry-
the air fryer. And I think the air fryer is the future of appliances. I think everyone's gonna have a small oven or with an air fryer or like a small little hot top, whatever, with an air fryer. That's what I have.
My girlfriend has one. She's been using it. Actually, since she moved in, she hasn't used it. So I need to kind of get her on there and be like, hey,
Oh.
let's put some French fries in there. Yeah, try those out.
Yeah, okay. Good answer. Good answer. What do you believe is the most important equipment needed for indoor growing? Just a single one piece of equipment, most important.
Lighting for sure. Yeah,
Yes.
you need the light in order for photosynthesis, right?
You can't use the little pinhole in the top corner of the room and have a good super soil.
No, that's gonna work. It's funny the amount of people that try to grow on a windowsill.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, this gets a good amount of light. It's like, and then they get barely anything. It's
I'm
like,
doing an experiment right now with clones. I'm trying to keep my
well, that'll
clones
work.
out of my basement, and I'm putting them up, trying to figure out a spot upstairs. I've got a baby on the way, so I have the whole drying room is gone. My whole other room is gone. That's why I have everything downstairs now. And here, I don't know if you can see this, but my basement is actually. It's only,
wow, okay.
It's only like
crawling around in there.
60 inches down here.
Wow.
So yeah, I have to fit everything in the small space I have. So I want to move to cloning, and I've been doing an experiment. And I've just have water bottles in the windowsill, and I got roots on one of them in like a couple days.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people do. I feel like there's some people don't get success with that though. Just putting their clone in water. Some people will change it out every 24 hours. So change out the water. Not sure if you're changing it out at all or just letting it sit.
I just threw some powdered what the heck is it called?
IBA.
Yeah, and it's I think it's the Pro Mix brand, which is what we have, just a Canadian Tire brand here. I just dipped them in, and I just threw it in the bottled water because I've been trying all these different cloning methods, trying to figure out which one I liked best. I do like the oxygen cloner the best, I think, just because the way I have it set up, it's a lot shorter, it's easier to put into a cupboard. And I've tried aero cloners, I've tried just the water bottles, I've tried a paper towel method that someone suggested. And what happened with that was crazy is it rooted, but what happened is all the roots came out and they just clumped up into a big hard ball. So I had the cutting and the stalk was there, the new stalk, and then it literally had just this big ball of hard roots off the side. And it was the weirdest thing, and every single one of them did that. And I was just thinking, oh, maybe the water sat there with the IBA, which could sometimes can create, because we've also done experiments that if you cut your plant, like you top your plant, and you put a little bit of cloning hormones on that cut, it'll cause a huge deformity there. It'll just cause it to like mutate almost. And I think that's kind of what was doing it. There was no oxygen getting in there, causing the roots to just block or whatever.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Do you grow anything other than cannabis, herbs, veggies?
Yeah, I started. I started growing cannabis about 2010, so 12 years now. Wow, time flies. And then I started vegetables 2017, I think, 2018. So lettuce, kale, bok choy, just finished some peppers. What else? Spinach. That's about it. I haven't really done too much.
Just got a couple garden beds outside?
Yeah, I have a 2x10 garden outside.
Oh, okay. Nice,
grassroots fabric pots. Actually, we're in their shirt right now.
Oh, nice.
2x10 bed, so it's nice and long.
Huge.
Got some pretty decent results off of that. It's the way the sun works. It's probably not the best spot, but I'm still able to get somewhat of a harvest. And then indoors, I've done the lettuce, spinach. I didn't get good results with indoors, and the peppers. I got some decent results indoors.
Yeah, a lot of guys are saying their peppers are doing really well indoors. They're putting it in their same cannabis soil, and they're getting like twice the peppers, and it's because they grow very similar
awesome.
with the high amount of PK needed.
Do you grow any vegetables?
I've got a greenhouse outside. We set up a greenhouse last year, and you can actually use the command greenhouse in the chat, and it'll switch to my greenhouse camera. And last year I had some tomatoes in there, and the tomatoes were I bought the wrong one. Well, I bought 2 tomatoes and I planted the wrong ones in the greenhouse. I meant to plant like the beef steak ones, I think they were called, and which stay more of like kind of like an autoflower, like a little bush, right? But I planted the climbers, so they went through the whole greenhouse. They were going the whole ceiling, and then we've got my wife does bouquets and stuff. So we've got a whole bunch of cutting flowers. So dahlias, which grow very similar to, or dahlia, which grows similar to cannabis. zinnias, tulips.
Nice,
We
nice.
cut them up, sell those, you know, which is always fun.
Awesome.
What is your opinion on live versus cured rosin, if you have one?
That's funny. I was just smoking some live rosin right here.
That's why I brought that up, because I saw you pull that. I know.
Yeah. So I don't have too much knowledge on this. I don't know the difference between live and cured.
Okay,
I'm
so
not sure what the difference is.
live would be processed with fresh frozen, and cured would be dried then processed.
Fuck, I don't have an opinion on that. To be honest with you, I don't know. Whatever brings out better flavor is what I'd go towards, right? Okay. Here in the dispensaries, I live in Las Vegas.
Yep.
And it's rec here as well as medical. And there's so many dispensaries around here. And it seems like the dispensary I go to, and I've been to a handful of dispensaries out here. Don't really need to since I grow my own. But for cartridges, I go to the dispensary. And I feel like it's 75%, maybe 85% are distillate. And I'm just like, ugh. Because what they do for that, I mean, they rip out all the flavor, right? They rip out all the flavor and then they manually add it back in.
Exactly.
Like, man. I dealt with it for a little while, but like, man, the live rosin is just so much flavorful. Like, so much better, you know? So I'll pay the extra $20 or whatever it is for a better cartridge with the flavor, you know?
Yeah. It definitely depends on how what material you're processing with live versus cured, and a lot of people are doing that mid now, so they're drying it for half and then they're cutting it, and it's still considered live. You do get a lot less yield through live, so when you are doing bubble hash and stuff, you are getting around that probably 3 to 7%, and then when you're doing cured, you're getting anywhere from 7 to 15%.
Okay.
It really, if you're doing it through a whole cold room and you've got the full setup, the freeze dryers, all that, and everything's in a perfect environment in both states, you can keep the terpenes you can preserve them in both of them very, very similar. The one reason why I have this as controversial is the reason why I say is live is I'm not a big fan of outdoor live, because I feel that there's no way to ever tell if you've got bird poo out of live. Because when you say live, it's immediately chopped and frozen. So it's not actually 100% inspected for bud rot, bird shit, WPM. It's only inspected to what they can see, not the inside, because they're not going to destroy all the bud to be able to figure it out. So if people are doing fresh frozen outdoor, which is the most popular here, you don't have a guarantee. So I'm not saying stuff goes through the COAs or anything like that, but there's definitely higher chances of having to remove the contaminants, right? So you're going to have a better process of removing contaminants, in my opinion. But it seems that here in Canada, the market is on both sides, but the market is also changing to consistency over everything. So it doesn't matter where you really start. It's kind of how you cure it, or the temperatures while you're processing it or pressing it, or the method of binding and blending these flavors together, this and that, I think is where the industry is moving, in my opinion. And that was my next question. Do you do any pressing or any processing? Or are you mainly flower?
Man, it's interesting you say all that. I didn't know any of that, so I definitely learned that. Yeah, I actually have a press behind me, so you can see it. Oh no, actually it's hidden. Sorry, it's over on the other side of the bed.
What press is it?
I think it's a 10-ton press.
Oh, yeah?
NY press or something like that. Fuck, I forget that.
Hey, it's a press. It's a rosin press. It works, right? 10-ton rosin.
Yeah. It's really 10-ton. It's pretty good. You know, I do like to press out my own. Man, it's so tough. Like I thought it would be so easy to figure out how to do it, but like having the perfect moisture level and the trichome, it's got to be like perfect in order to get a good press out of it. So like there's been times where the bud has been like a little bit too over dry and I try to press it and I get next to nothing, or it's too wet and you get next to nothing. It's got to be like the perfect amount. I don't know if I assume you press.
I do every Saturday. We do Squish Saturdays. So Saturday from
cool.
10 o'clock till about 1 o'clock, I press. So I usually press around just maybe an ounce and a half a week, and I do only flower pressing here. I used to do a little bit of bubble. It never really turned out well just because of my space and how it's so small down here. I don't have a water drain. RO system is something I don't 100% agree with, just because I think we shouldn't be wasting so much water. In my opinion, we shouldn't be wasting so much water. There's got to be other methods of RO systems without having to waste so much water. So trying to figure out a system that's 1-to-1 or something that's very, very little, or reusing your wastewater in like toilets. So I would get a RO system hooked up that I'm using the wastewater in my toilets and my laundry sinks, this, that. So you're not actually throwing it down the drain and spending money on it, right?
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
that's my
Well, the temperature is a pretty big deal. You know, like a real big deal. Like what temperature you're pressing at. Like, you know, like I said, I live in the desert, and I'm just trying to press during summertime where like it's about 80 degrees. It just comes out all gooey, and like
It's
I
the
don't think it's getting
humidity.
yield. I
I'm
feel
finding.
is humidity.
Yeah, a lot of it I find is the humidity for me. Is that I have everything in Bovita packs, so all my jars I've just put. I got like 4.5 liter jars, whatever. I don't check any of my yield when I harvest. Everything just goes into trim bin, throw it in my jar, and then I just show it on stream. This is what we got. I don't know how much it is, but might be 150 grams or whatever, right? And then we just press it, and then when it starts to run dry, hopefully I got another fucking grow going, right? That's how I operate. And with pressing is something that was big for me. Is that I am definitely mainly a flower smoker, but the whole extraction side of pressing I think is something that I wanted to personally learn, because I think in the next 2 years, extraction tech here is going to be a registered trade. So I'm a tradesman myself. I went through school to be a plumber, to be a handyman, and I've got a lot of that on my experience in that. And if I can get into an experience of being in a registered trade through cannabis, that's just like 2 and 2 things together. Like I got my plumbing background plus extraction tech in a trade. Like so I enjoy the pressing of rosin. I don't consume it nearly as much as I probably should. But here's some stuff that I've pressed. Like this is some flower rosin here. This is what we pressed last week. This is some memberberry. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, okay. Nice.
That's just
nice.
memberberry flower rosin.
Okay.
And then
Yeah, I usually press flower too. And
some flowers. Well.
oh, okay.
And that's just
Yeah,
flower.
nice.
And that's
You have to have a lot of patience to press, right?
Yeah, definitely lots of patience. But Saturday, I would love to stop in and I can show
I'll have
you
to
some.
tune in.
Yeah, I can show you some.
Can I ask what temperature you like to press at and for how long?
Yeah. So what I do is I use 2 by 4.5 inch bags. I have my own bags right now that I'm calling the dank mid bags. I'm gonna hopefully be releasing my own rosin bags soon. But I just pack it with 10 grams. I throw it on my plates, and my plates are 3 by 5. So I center that bag perfectly between the 3 by 5, because it's sizing your bag to your plates is also important, because that also matters how much pounds you have to put, how much pressure you've got to put, the PSI, right? So if your bag is too large for the space, you're not going to be able to squish everything out. If it's too small, you can probably press everything out, but now you got a lot of it sitting on that heat a lot, right? So you got to watch for that. So I mainly press that in my strains. I press anywhere from 185 Fahrenheit to 194 Fahrenheit. And I use Celsius, but I've been good to be able to convert to Fahrenheit for everyone in the States.
Nice.
But that's mainly where I am with flower. I don't go over 200. If I have to go over 200 on a strain, I just smoke it as flower. I'm not interested in going over 200. And I have pressed at like 165 to 175, and it definitely comes out. But the one thing I realized with that, and I've learned with that, is you have to have your press needs to be like sideways for flower, because there's no flow at that temperature anymore, and it's more or less coming out like almost like hash. Like it's coming out like little like THC, like little like blocks, right? Coming through the bag like that. So it's not flowing. It's sitting on the plate. So if you can get it close to the plate and kind of lay it down, you can get really, really good terpy quality. Low yield. You just have to watch your temperature. So I press for a 1 minute pre-press at that full temperature. And that 1 minute, I'm just waiting for that oil line to show. So I'm giving it pressure. As soon as I've got to the point where I start to see the bag is closing, I don't have a gauge on mine, right? So I'm feeling all by pressure. As soon as I feel the bag is at that 1 ton, it's getting 1 ton of pressure on the bag, I start to see that oil line. The oil's coming out of the bag now, right? That's when I know, okay, my pre-press at my temperature is flowing well for the strain. So now I increase that 1 minute to 4 minutes. So my press is a total of 5 minutes. And then that whole 4 minute time, I'm never lowering the pressure. I'm increasing it all the way to my max. And a lot of what I find people do is they increase it to their max too fast. So in that 4 minutes, by the time I'm at 30 seconds left, I just hit my max. And on a 10-ton press, my max is only around 7 tons, right? You're never getting 10 tons out of a 10-ton press. And it really depends on the strain. Like, that's the way I look. If I get 20%, if I get over 18%, it's decent press. If I get 26%, that's a strain that I'm keeping only for pressing. Like, I've got 2 strains that are only for pressing at around 26%. And then I've got a strain like the Member Bear, the one I just showed you, gets like 15%. So it's like, if it was a decent grow for smoking, then I'll smoke it. If it was a shitty grow, throw it in the freezer, and then I might just press it down the road just to make it smaller in a jar, right?
Wow. Yeah, lots of good information there for sure. 5 minutes. Wow. I only did like 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes typically, I feel like. But I'll have to try the longer ones.
People like to do the shorter presses. I'm not against it. The thing with shorter presses is you're going in, making sure that because the main thing with the pre-press is forming everything into with no air gaps, right? You're trying to form it into a brick so that everything flows through. And as soon as there's an air gap, the oil sits in that air gap and it just sits there, right? And then it doesn't move, right? As soon as you have to keep adding more and more and more grade to it to keep it to flow. So on some presses, people do the 2 minutes, but you see that they're increasing the pressure a lot faster, or they're using a smaller bag for their press, or they're using a higher micron size. I use 37 microns, so I use hash bags for flour. I don't use like 90 micron or 120 micron, which is your normal flour bag. So I'm using a hash bag with higher temperature to try and increase the quality, a little bit lower yields, but my flow is also down. So keeping that grade helps a lot.
Oh, okay. Nice.
That's my little pressing.
Clearly passionate about it, way more than I do it. I haven't touched my press actually in probably 8 months to be honest with you. So I need to press some more.
48 hours of darkness before harvest. I know you just did a video of 48 hours of light before harvest, which I'm guessing it's debunking the 48 hours of. I haven't watched it yet. I just saw the title. I don't know if it's clickbait or what. But
no, I asked this question to Dr. Bruce Bugby. So for those that don't know, I have a podcast where I interview all types of growers, from beginner growers, experts, scientists. Dr. Bruce Bugby, well-known, Utah State University. I'm actually going to Utah State University right now for my cannabis cultivation certificate. Kind of underneath him on that one. But I had him on my podcast. I asked him this question, the darkness before harvest. And a lot of people say it's because of more trichome development, right? That's what I've heard. It's like the terpenes, become more potent, or you get more trichomes.
Very similar to UVB.
Right. Exactly. And so when I mentioned that to him, he's like, well, because apparently trichome happens at night, right? The building of trichomes or the potency happens at lights off.
Stress or lights off, yeah.
So I asked him that, and he's like, well, that's not true. That's, terpenes and trichomes are synthesized during the day, during lights on, when photosynthesis happen.
Yeah.
So he says that doesn't make sense. He's like, some growers are doing 48 hours of light before harvest as this last minute stress mechanism. Because he believes in precision stress. And, 48 hours of light before harvest, you're synthesizing proteins all the way up until the end, right? So that's kind of what his methodology was for that. So I really just kind of showed a clip of him saying that, and me kind of asking people what they think about it is kind of what that video entailed.
Okay, very cool. Because there's also like why I have it as a controversial topic is because that, with the lights thing, what you just talked about, and there's also the reason why some people do it is for the stress factor. The thing where people are, which isn't false. It's definitely true that when cannabis is in a stressed state, it's trying to produce more oil and more resin and more pistils because it is trying to reproduce. It's trying to get its offspring going, right? So a lot of people think the 48 hours of darkness helps increase the trichome production because of the stressing factor of it. But the 48 hours would also give a stress factor as well. So that could be a win-win on both sides. Because 48 hours in light on in flower is a big stress for plants, especially in the last couple of days, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. And Mako Daddy in the chat has a good point. He says no proof either. So like
Yeah.
as far as studies that are done on any of this stuff, I don't think it exists. So yeah, kind of just speculating and saying what we think is happening here.
Yeah.
So
What about drying the soil out before harvest to induce stress? Rudy asked that in chat.
that's another way to kind of go about stress. I don't know if it would work or not. The downside to that, drying out your soil before harvesting, is particularly I had a going into the 48 hours darkness when I've tried that. The medium was dry, and then 48 hours later, I checked on the plants, and all of a sudden, the buds are starting to dry on the plant. Well, so I had a fast dry on that one, so I kind of fucked up my crop. You know what I mean? So I'm like, God damn,
too fast drying because a lot of the moisture was sucked out of, like it didn't have
exactly.
anything, right? That couple, yeah, interesting.
So I would say that's risky. If it does work, I would say that's it's kind of risky. Just be aware of that. I personally like to have a wet, moist medium all the way up until harvest. Me personally, particularly because I live in a dry environment, like I mentioned earlier. I need a slower dry because I'm battling against the environment here. So
totally. Okay, I've got 3 more questions. Okay, you good for 3 more? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, this one's another very, very serious one. Okay, I know you like these serious ones. Does the term bacon specifically mean it came from a pig? Does turkey or chicken bacon are they counted as real bacon?
Oh God. That's a great question, right? There's a lot of controversial questions. You said there was going to be a lot of controversial questions on this chat. Yeah, turkey bacon. Is it actually bacon, right?
It's chicken and turkey bacon. Have you ever had chicken bacon?
Chicken bacon? I haven't. No.
Okay,
is it any good?
Oh, it's amazing. And
really?
Everyone makes fun of me for it, yes. And which is why I'm asking, because they don't think anything that's outside of a pig is considered bacon. So I'm just asking another growing professional here his opinion on if chicken bacon or turkey bacon is considered bacon, or is it considered more of a what are those things called? Like dried, like those dried sticks or whatever. Jerky, beef jerky, chicken jerky.
Beef jerky, like a jerky. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if you can call it bacon, right? Because bacon, I think we got to pull up like Google or something, man.
Put him on the spot.
We got to see what the internet's saying.
I put him on the spot. There's only one bacon.
That's funny.
That's good. All right.
The chat's going nuts.
Okay. Well, now that we're on this question, okay, here's another really important one. I can throw some hype. When you're making a sandwich, do you put Miracle Whip on it, or do you put mayonnaise on it?
Mayonnaise.
Okay.
Mayonnaise. Yep.
Do you use Miracle Whip at all?
If it's on sale.
Oh, he sounds just like fucking me. Oh, that's good.
Same thing with you?
Oh, I'm a fucking Miracle Whip all the way.
Oh,
I had a poll on Twitch when I first started. Where you used to be able to open up my stream and a poll would pop up, and it was Miracle Whip or mayonnaise, and then joint or dab or whatever. And we had like 2,000 votes before I took it off. And it was pretty close at the beginning, and then when I started saying I like Miracle Whip, everyone fucking voted for mayonnaise.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, they're even putting like oils in mayonnaise now too, right? Like the olive oil spread mayonnaise, all sorts of stuff. Avocado, I think there's avocado mayonnaise or something.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Somebody said killed the vibe. Killed the vibe.
Would you rather top a plant or low stress train to create an even canopy?
It depends if it's autos or
you can only do one.
It depends. Is it auto or a photo?
Well, auto or photo. What do you want? If it's an auto, what would you do?
Auto, low stress train.
Yeah, if it's a photo,
I don't like to top autos. I mean, I've done it.
Yep.
I feel like I need to do it more. I've only done it a handful of times. I feel like I've gotten a less yield. Mm-hmm. Now we know that it's coming from seed. Every seed is a different phenotype, so we can't compare. Even if they're the same cultivar, we can't compare a bunch of autoflower seeds and look at their growth and say, oh, I mean, they should be somewhat, if they're stable, they should look somewhat the same, but it's really difficult to be like, oh, well, I topped this one and I got less yield. It's because of topping. It's hard to kind of say that. So I've always gotten like a less result topping Autoflow. So just low stress yield for that. Photos, it really depends on my situation, right? I've oftentimes, if it's like a stretchier strain, like an OG or something with longer internodes, I often do like to top. I prefer to top.
Yep.
Because it helps promote those side branches more, right? Those lateral branches coming out. And then oftentimes I grow a whole bunch of different cultivars. So there's usually a strain that's more squattier. And so in order to control the canopy in my environment, so I don't have some stretching way over, I'll top those stretchier plants and have those smaller squattier plants kind of catch up to it. So I really feel like it's situational for sure.
Do you do a day 21 or 42 defoliation? I should
I
have
do.
put that in two different questions. Do you do a day 21 defoliation, and have you ever done a day 42?
Yep. I try to avoid defoliation all the way up until the point where the canopy is just too thick. To where I got to get some airflow in there.
Yeah.
So that might be veg before flipping. That might be first week of flower. That might be second week of flower. That might be day 21, right? I might be waiting all the way up until day 21 until I do a defoliation. But oftentimes I'll do like a defoliation before flipping the flower and then on day 21. And then the end of flower, that's pretty interesting. Around day 45 is usually what I used to do. Take off those leaves, try to get some light down in there for ripening of the trichomes. I don't do it as much as I used to. Really depends on if I feel like it needs to be. A lot of cultivars don't even need to be because there's just so much spacing between bud sites. So naturally, they don't need to have that defoliation, in my opinion. So.
Taking off like a handful at once when you do a defoliation, is that what you consider a defoliation? A handful or a bucket full, or is that a couple leaves here and there?
Yeah, and that's where pruning versus defoliation, right? Pruning is a term that's used in vegetables a lot, right? Defoliation, I think, is only cannabis. I don't think anybody uses it beyond cannabis, right? Literally, but they're pretty much the same thing, I guess defoliation is a pruning technique, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
But plucking off, I like to pluck off mostly just in the middle of the canopy and kind of leave the outers for the most part. I do like to leave the bottom larger fan leaves. Call it the skirt method. Leave those bottoms because they're not hurting anybody. You know what I mean? Like it's still getting light down in the middle, and then that actually helps with find out if I am running across deficiency or whatever. Sometimes they happen at the bottom of the plant, so I can have a visual. Right, I haven't stripped off those leaves. I can at least see and then make adjustments. So that's kind of the way I go about it.
Okay, two more questions here. Mulch / cover crop. What's your opinion on that?
I like them. I use barley straw as a mulch. In particular, particularly when growing organic, I also do synthetic. For sure, I use a mulch layer, water retention. Like I mentioned twice already, I live in a very dry climate, so that layer, top layer, dries out really quickly. So having a mulch layer is very, very beneficial, especially when I'm top dressing organic nutrients, and that top layer needs to stay moist. Having that mulch layer on top is definitely beneficial for me in my situation. Cover crops are cool too. I haven't had too much experience with them. Just the white Dutch clover. White Dutch clover is I usually plant it when I'm planting my seeds. If you plant them too late when the plant is already kind of somewhat grown, the light doesn't kind of get down and your cover crop doesn't grow as well. But the white Dutch clover is good for nitrogen fixation. Right? It's taking the nitrogen in the air and putting it into a form that's available for the plants. So I've just been using that. I do want to get like those blends. It's like a 12 cover crop blend. I'm looking to try that out and learn more about that.
I've looked into some of those. They work, but if you overgrow them, they can. I've seen here that a couple guys have the big no-till setups, and they let their cover crop overgrow, and some of them they grow into these weird plants, and one of them grows into this plant with like white powder all over it. It looks like WPM over the whole thing.
Wow.
And it's like this white powdery thing, and I know there's been two guys who've got it by using, and they both said they use the 12 pack, which I know it's similar. I know I'm guessing we're talking about the same one, and. There's if you let it grow too far, So I don't know which one it is, but it's like this one that grows, it flowers, and it turns into like this white powdery shit.
Wow. Well, we might not be talking about the same one
No?
because I'm in the States and you're in Canada. I think
Well,
there's Canada
I
company that
know.
has that blend.
Yeah, build a soil.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We are talking about the same thing.
Yeah,
All right.
because most of my audience is the States and Europe, Germany, and out that way. So I start to learn like bio biz from Europe, and a
Oh,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
build a soil and stuff in the States, and down to earth, Dr. Earth, rather than Gaia Green, which is Canada, and we've got
yeah,
Black Swallow
yeah.
soil, which would be our build a soil, and you start to learn all the different ones. With
Yeah.
your mulch, do you think it adds any bugs or anything? Your mulch or cover crop?
I mean, I think it can be difficult to control like fungus gnats, for
Okay.
example, because they have like some cover,
Hmm.
right? So if your lower layer, and it depends on what mulch layer we're talking about. You know what I mean? If it's like some people use like rice hulls, and those are so thick that like getting bugs
Hmm.
through that it can be more difficult depending on the thickness of
Yeah.
mulch layer. But straw, for example, which is what I use,
Hmm.
sure, if that layer, if you've got fungus gnat infestation
Yeah.
underneath that mulch
Hmm.
layer, and then they're able to get through that mulch layer,
Sure.
and it's the mulch layer is keeping that media moist, so
Mhm.
they're continuing to thrive. I think that could be an issue in a situation like that for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. The last
Um,
question. Last question I have for you
all
is
right.
what is your least favorite thing about growing? The hardest question to me.
Oh man, the least favorite thing about growing, man, that's a good question. I think like probably my least favorite thing about growing is like when you run into a problem and you like just can't figure it out, right? I mean, having all these years of experience, problems still come up,
Yep.
right? I think there's a lot of new growers magically think after a certain number of years you're
Mhm.
never going to run across a problem ever again. Oh, it
Mhm.
happens.
No.
We talked about viruses and viroids
Yeah.
earlier. Like you can't even realize what that is. Like a lot of people don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
It's showing as these deficiencies, so they think they're chasing after nitrogen toxicity or nitrogen deficiency
Yeah.
or
They've got a
magnesium or
membrane.
calcium. It's really a
Exactly.
virus
That's just
battling them. You know what I mean?
exactly. That's crazy too. That
So
virus.
yeah,
Crazy.
so it's very, very that's one of the frustrations when growing is coming across a problem and you just can't figure it out. You can't get over it, you know.
Totally. Totally. And that's why TBL is here. That's what we've created is a community that if you have a little problem like that, you can post your photo and we together, and that's what I do every morning. I don't know if you've watched me, but every morning I go through all of the Discord photos, just like how people do Reddit recap. I do Discord recap, TBL recap, right? I go through everyone's photos. We make sure I try not to miss anyone's photos from the night before, and we try to answer everyone's questions. If someone's got a deficiency, if someone's got a watering problem, if someone's got an equipment question, someone's looking for a light or whatever, we try to go through everything. So usually the first 3 hours of the stream is going through doing that. And to be honest, I think that's helped me learn the most over the last 3 years. Because before legalization, it was just like throwing a plant outside and the deer would eat it, or putting a little CFL above, like nothing really crazy. As soon as legalization came out, it was like, oh, we can learn, we can do this, we can get better seeds, we can get all this, and it was just like it took off so fast, and it's exciting.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'll have to tune in now. I'm part of the Discord,
Yeah,
so I'll be
I
able
know.
to potentially submit in pictures in the future for sure. That's
Yeah.
really cool that you have a segment like that. I like that.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the Bud Lab. Thank you for chilling with us, guys. Can we get some love in the chat? I never got your name. Your name Chris?
Yep.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
Derk.
yeah.
That's,
Yeah, thanks to everybody in the chat. I mean, this is crazy. 124 people in here. Tons of love in the chat. I see some familiar faces, but a lot of new faces there. Shameless plug. I'll shout myself out if you don't mind.
go ahead, brother.
Twitch.tv/MrGrowit. You can tune in there. Also, twitch.tv/From the Stash Podcast. Twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're on From the Stash Podcast. Me, Rob from Cannabis Lifestyle TV, and Pigeons 420. So that's where I'm most active on Twitch is on that channel.
Totally.
But real chill community. I mean, very similar to what you got here. I'm sure there's some overlap for sure. But we'd love to have you come on over and join into some of our podcast episodes.
Awesome.
Like I mentioned, twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's 12 p.m. Pacific time is usually when we're going live there. So for those of you here on
Also,
Twitch,
that's another 2 hours.
come
Or
on
another
over.
hour, right?
Yeah, yep.
Another
We'll
hour.
be on in another 2 hours. 2 hours for me.
Another 2 hours, guys. They're gonna be doing their podcast, and then another 6, 7 hours, and we have our sub sesh tonight. It's our 2-year sub sesh tonight, and we do an offline.
Congrats.
We do an offline sesh. We used to do it live, and then it gets a little bit difficult when you do them live with with a lot of people. So we do them offline now, and we've been loving it. It's a ton of fun. People usually show through their gardens. We just chill. We talk about whatever the fuck comes up, and it's always a fun time.
That's cool. I'll have to tune in that for sure. Shorty, thanks for posting that link. That's that'll get you there to the channel.
Sweet.
Well, thanks a lot, Derek. This is cool, and thanks everyone in chat.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
You're welcome back anytime. We all know you around here, so come back whenever.
We'll talk to the DMs, potentially get you on one of my shows. So that'd be cool.
Man, that'd be awesome.
All right.
Cheers,
take care.
Later.
See ya.
Later. How was that, guys? How was that, guys? You guys ready to smoke now? I don't even have any. When he said there's 124 fucking people watching right now, I don't even have my viewer numbers over here, and he says there's 124 people. You guys are fucking crazy. 126. 126 fucking people. Holy shit. Guys, can we get some fucking TBL emotes in the chat right now? Let's get a fucking bowl going. Get some TBL emotes in chat right now. You guys are absolutely incredible. Thank you for being in our family. Thank you for being part of the Bud Lab. And Chris, MrGrowit, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for joining our show, man. Thank you for answering all of our dumb questions.